it complements the sanction packages that are negotiated within the foreign ministers' table. Thank you.
Good morning. Tánaiste will say a few words and then we'll take a few questions.
Hello there, delighted to be here at today's Foreign Affairs Council. I think it's a very important opportunity to take stock on the situation in Ukraine, and most particularly the need to prepare to implement and deliver a 19th package of sanctions. I think it should be possible to get that done this week between the meeting today and the European Council later in the week. It's clear that Putin only understands one language, and that is that we negotiate from a position of strength. And it's really important in standing in solidarity with Ukraine that we take every measure possible in terms of increasing the pressure on Putin to come to the negotiating table and to bring about a just, lasting and enduring peace. So I look forward to having the discussion with colleagues here today, and I believe a 19th package of sanctions should be agreed this week. I think it's very important that it is. In relation to the Middle East, it's important that the ceasefire holds. It's extraordinarily important that everybody that's a party to that ceasefire exercises maximum restraint. We all know how difficult it was to get to this point where hostages were released, where aid is flowing, and where we're beginning to have conversations about what a peace plan for the Middle East can look like. I really think we need to see a very significant increase in the amount of aid getting into Gaza. We need to see the Rafah crossing opening as an absolute priority, and Ireland stands ready to do more to assist when it comes to humanitarian aid. I think it'll be important today to have a discussion about what Europe can do in terms of being a constructive voice for peace, and it's really essential now that we get on to the next phase of the peace plan. Yes, it's really good to see a ceasefire. Yes, it's vital that it's maintained, but it's also vital now that we look at all the other points in that peace plan, including how you bring about a future for Gaza, a future for Palestine, and indeed ultimately can have two states living side by side in peace and security.
Minister, you have elections in your country this week. Given the dynamics at European Council and the kind of fracturing unity around some key questions of foreign policy, how important are those elections and what's at stake?
Well, I think it's really important when the people of Ireland go to the polling stations on Friday that we very much reaffirm our European values. Ireland is a country that is proudly at the heart of the European Union. Ireland is a country that will have the presidency of the Council of the European Union next year. And it's very hard to see how any candidate can say that they're pro-European or in favour of Europe and yet vote against every single European treaty. That's not the definition of pro-European. So I'm hoping this week when people go out and vote for the President of Ireland that they will vote to reflect our values. It is a narrow ballot, it is a small ballot, it's a more narrow ballot than many people expected. But ultimately there is a binary choice on the ballot on Friday, and I think in the hours and days ahead when people look at the two candidates, I'd ask them to ask themselves the question, who is the candidate most closely aligned with my worldview? Who is the candidate most closely aligned with my values? Who is the candidate that will be the safest bet in terms of representing Ireland with pride and distinction at home and abroad and will never let our country down? And indeed, who is the candidate that is pro-Europe? Because at a time where European unity is so important, I want Ireland to very clearly vote in that direction.
So, the EU is thinking about using the frozen methods, Russian frozen methods, helping Ukraine. What is needed and to get there? And there will be a decision on this week.
I hope there's a decision on this week. I hope there could be a decision on this at the European Council, and I think the conversations we could have today could hopefully pave the way for that. I think there's a need to consider quite a number of issues, including how it doesn't appear on the national debt of any member states. I know that is an issue of concern. But the aggressor should always pay, and it's important that Ukraine can have use of the resources that it needs in the here and now. I think it's also important that if those assets are used, that they're used for a variety of things, including for humanitarian and budgetary needs in Ukraine too.
Okay, yourself.
Well, I'm deeply saddened by the decision made by Georgia in relation to moving away from its European journey, and I certainly hope that's something that can be revisited in the future. I wanted to see Georgia as part of the European Union, and I'm very saddened by the direction that the now Georgian government has taken Georgia in relation to that. I'm also concerned by recent developments too, so I look forward to having a chance to exchange views on this with colleagues today.
What is your position that Putin will come to territory on Friday? International has supported the Friday
najważniejsze sprawy związane z Ukrainą. Poza tym będziemy rozmawiać także o sytuacji dotyczącej relacji.
Yeah, I think a couple of things. I think we're hearing conflicting positions from the United States in the last few days in relation to Ukraine. I read reports of the meeting on Friday. We'll hear directly from our Ukrainian counterpart who will be here at our meeting today. But certainly a meeting taking place on European Union soil is somewhat provocative. But anything that can bring about peace is something that would be welcomed. But understanding the parameters of that discussion and ensuring that the United States and the European Union is aligned closely in advance of any such meeting would be really important. And I hope today's meeting and the European Council later this week can make progress in relation to that.
Okay.
I think it's very important that the European Union keeps all of its options on the table. Of course, in the here and now, peace, maintaining the ceasefire, getting the aid in is absolute priority. But we also know the fragility of this ceasefire. We know the horrific humanitarian catastrophe that the people of Gaza have experienced, the famine conditions that they've lived through. So I think we should be keeping all of our options on the table whilst wanting to play a constructive role in relation to peace. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Podniesione nasze polskie na wyższy poziom.